Are you guys able to see my screen? Are you guys able to see my screen? Okay, students, are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I think the live stream is also going fine. So I'll just share the live stream link with you. Okay. So today morning, I thought about this code that we wrote yesterday. Okay. So I thought about this code that we wrote yesterday, and I thought we should make it slightly better. Can you guys suggest me something for that? I mean, I'm not saying that this is wrong way of coding or anything. Okay. I wanted to actually show you one other way of coding as well. So before I do that, I wanted to actually show you what was PEP 8. So you guys remember what is PEP 8 style guide for Python code? I had shared it with you in the 2 or 3 days back. Like, have you guys gone through it? Any of you? Not yet, okay. So let's just go through PEP 8. So what is PEP 8? So PEP 8 is just a coding standard, okay. So meaning that it's a coding style, okay, convention that has been agreed upon by multiple people or by a consortium, that is agreed upon. So that is what we call as the PEP 8 coding standard. Okay. Now for this, right, I can just check on the internet for a PEP 8 checker. Okay, and you can see that you have online checkers also available for your PEP 8. So we can do one thing. Let's just take the the code and paste it here. Okay, so this is the code that we have written. Let's see whether it follows the PEP 8 standard. Okay, so you can see that there are a lot of issues. Okay, there are a lot of issues in this code. Okay, the first issue is in line number 1. All the issue is in line number 1. Okay, and it says that you have to have a white space after the colon. Okay, so which means if I put a colon like this, I mean if I put a white space after the colon like this, would it accept it? Okay, so this is what it said. So for this reason I am going to do the check again. You can see that the number of errors have reduced, but it says there are missing white space after the comma. Are you guys able to follow what I am trying to tell you? So PEP 8, as I told you, is a coding standard or a coding style convention, meaning that it also tells you how you should name your variable. Okay, how you should name your variable. Okay, where all should you put spaces, okay, between two let's say tokens. Okay, so this is what the PEP 8 style kind of discusses. So when you look at the indentation, it says that you have to use 4 spaces per indentation level. And if we look at the Emacs editor, we can see that for the first indentation level where it is S over here, right, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 spaces have been applied already, right? And for this one, let's see how many number of spaces are there for this sum of product plus is equal to. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay, so this starts from the 9th column onwards. So which means that this indentation has to be 4 spaces per indentation level. So even in Python, even if you use 2 spaces or even if you use 8 spaces, as long as it is consistent across the entire program, it will still work. But the Pep8 standards ask you to do the coding with 4 spaces. Okay, so that was regarding the 4 space indentation. Okay, and then if you look further, it says tabs or spaces, and it is said that spaces are preferred indentation method. Tabs should be used solely to remain consistent with the code that is already intended with tabs. So if you are going to make a change to a code where they have used tabs instead of spaces, then if you try to introduce spaces, right, in that piece of code, your code will not work because you are being inconsistent. Inconsistent meaning that like you did something at one place and something else in another place. Okay, so you cannot mix the tabs and spaces for indentation. So Python will not allow you to do that. Okay, and if you are going to do the spaces in your program where the program was done with tabs, then you will have to convert all the tabs also to spaces, which is going to be cumbersome, and that is the reason why it is said tabs should be used only to remain consistent with the code that is already intended with tabs. Otherwise you should always use spaces, okay, and you should use 4 spaces per indentation level. So that is very important regarding the indentation. Next is maximum line length. So this is slightly difficult to follow, but most editors have this facilities to check what is the length of the line, etc. So it is said that for better readability you should limit all the lines to a maximum of 79 characters. So meaning that if you look at this first statement, right, then it has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and so on. It should be ideally split at the 79th character, and then it should go into the next line. Okay, so this is what you call as the maximum line length. So if we have say a big program, big statement that we need to write, okay, say it's given over here in this example. If we want to write a big statement, this is one single big statement, okay, and this has been actually split into multi-line statement. So this is what we mean by splitting the entire statement into 79 characters per line. Okay, next let's take a look at the next question. Should a line break before or after a binary operator? Okay, so for decades the recommended style was to break after binary operators, but this can hurt readability in 2 ways. The operators tend to get scattered across different columns on the screen, and each operator is moved away from its operand and onto the previous line. Okay, hence the eye has to do the extra work to tell which items are added and which are subtracted. So you can see that if you write your program like this, say you want to calculate the income, and the operators are plus, minus, etc. Okay, binary operator means that you need 2 operands to work with that operator to produce the result, right? So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, all are such kind of examples. So here income is equal to gross wages plus taxable interest plus dividends minus qualified dividends. Okay, so this one, right, it's mentioned that it is quite difficult to read because you do not completely understand exactly like which ones are going to be added, which ones, especially when it comes to these places, right, it becomes very difficult. So it is mentioned that you should write it as per the Pep8 standard in this way. So you should not write the code in this way, but instead you should write the code in a better way like this, where you have the operator just before the operand. So in this statement you can see that the difference of these dividends is added to the income. Okay. So that is how you should be writing the binary operator. And if you are going to write it all of it in one single line, that is also fine, okay. But if you want to actually split it across multiple lines, then you should actually put your operators at the start. Okay. Then okay, then there are blank lines. So when I wrote this particular piece of code, right, you can see that I have tried to put some blank lines, right. Although that was not at all necessary, I still have put those blank lines. And why have I put it? Because I wanted to actually, separate the functionality within the statements into different things. Say for example, over here you have grade point, which is actually a dictionary that I am defining based on the rules that we have found from the academic institute's website, right. And then the next thing is we are reading the file, the data, and then so that contains an open statement, and then you have to read it, strip it and split it. So that is again another small functionality that is there. And then the next thing is, once it is split, you want to get the credits, and the credits is actually obtained is there in the first line, because say, yeah, this is the I'm sorry, this is not the program. Oh, just a second. Grades to GPA. Did I? Yeah, this is a program. Okay. So in the first line you have the credits, and I mentioned that since I did not have any roll number or name, I just gave it a semicolon. I mean an underscore. Even if I don't give an underscore, that should still work. Okay, with just the commas. So let's just try to run the program once. Percentage run -i grade to GPA. Okay, so it still works even now, even after we have made that small change, because the value is not present in those columns. That's the only thing that what mean. Okay. Okay, so coming back to the program, so this first line over here is just the dictionary that we have defined, and the next two lines after the blank line is the file reading and data pre-processing step. Okay, I wouldn't say data pre-processing, but just data preparation. And next is, this is what? This is a list comprehension, right? List comprehension to get the credits for the courses into memory for further computation. All right. So that is what this line does. And then we have the for loop again, and in the for loop, right, we have I have defined certain variables. Okay, I have defined three variables, which is sum of product, roll number and name, and then inside that I have another for loop where I do something. Okay, now I have certain problems with this particular code, and the problems are very, I would say that they are not very very bad, okay, because the program still works. Okay, first problem is, what about the variable name, grade point? Is that correct? Is that correct as per PEP8 standards? Okay, so that's the first question. Next is, I'm okay with F and okay, F. So my question is, the variable name f uh, representing the real meaning of the variable. Okay, so so that is another question. And then you have data. So data I am okay with it, but again we can ponder whether that is correct or wrong. Okay, next is credits. So credits is okay as far as I am concerned, because that we have done it okay. Next thing is, what about the values, you know, I and val? What is val? And next is, you know, what exactly is val? So that's the grade, right? That's the grade that the student has obtained, and it's not any value, it is a grade. So I should actually have it called grade, and I should use grade here. All right. So I and grade. So I is, I would say, count. Okay, counter. So or else I will just call it as count for the time being. Okay, so I changes to count. So you know why I have taken this much of time to, you know, just a second. Yeah. Right. So do you know why I have taken this much time? Because I want you to appreciate, and I want you to start writing your code with the best practices, and Pep8 is one of the best practices. And why is it important is the next question. Why do we have to write it in Pep8? Because see, when I have changed it from I to val, I and val to count and grade, right? So you can see that credits of count, or I can say the position, I will say position. Okay, so that makes it much, you know, more readable, because credits of position, meaning that, or I would just say POS. Okay, position is fine. Okay, and then I have grade point of grade, which means that I know that grade point of S or grade point of A, that is what I am going to give. Okay, so rest of the things are fine, but I still have a question about grade point. So let's just further look into what are the next things that we need to follow as per the Pep8 standard. So we have seen, as per the Pep8 standard, we need to have blank lines, and blank lines, right, surround top level function and class definitions with two blank lines. Method definitions inside a class are surrounded by a single blank line. So understand the things that are mentioned over here, right? So you have to use two blank lines if you are going to work with top level functions and class definitions. If you are going to work with method definitions inside a class, so method definition inside a class is surrounded by a single blank line, and extra blank lines may be used to separate groups of related functions. Extra blank lines may be used, but sparingly, to separate groups of related functions. So that is what I have actually done over here. Okay. Next is the source file encoding. What do you mean by that? So whenever so you see, I did not write this first line over here by myself. You guys know that, right? How did I create this file? Can someone please tell me quickly? Can someone please tell me quickly, how did I create the grade to gpa.py file? I have done this yesterday. Badraksh, were you available yesterday?
No, sir. Yesterday there was no internet, so I couldn't join the class.
Okay, okay. Have you seen the video that was live streamed?
No, sir, not yet.
Vishesh,
Yes, sir.
do you know how this file was created?
Sir, no, sir. I'm just lost.
Veera Subramanya, Vignesh.
Sir, what do you mean by how this file was created?
Okay. Okay. So at first I started writing the code at some place, and then after I wrote a set of statements, I moved those statements to this file by some command. That is what I mean by how was this file created. So, do you guys remember me starting to write the code? I think here in the IPython interpreter. See, you can see the IPython interpreter over here. You can see f is equal to open grades to GPA data is equal to f dot read something, okay, and then I kept on writing the different statements, okay, and at one point in time I figured out that it is better to move whatever I have written. So, I have written around 14 blocks of statements, I would say, because 14th one is a for loop, double for loop, right, for loop within a for loop thing. So, I figured out that now I can't continue creating the program in the interpreter alone, and I need to move it to the file, and I moved it to the file by first typing the command %hist -n in my IPython terminal, okay, in my IPython terminal. So, I have typed %hist space -n, and then it printed the lines that I have written so far, and it included from 2 to 14, okay. So, which means that I wanted to save 2 to 14 to a particular file, and that is how I created it. Badraksh, do you now understand?
Yes, sir, I got it. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
sure. So, that is a very valid question, because IPython interpreter, you need to know how, if you are going to use IPython interpreter, and if I have taught you to use IPython interpreter, and if I ask you how do you save it, you should know that, okay, and how do you get the list of all the statements that you have written so far, and how do you select certain lines, right. So, this is how you will select the certain lines. I have selected 2 to 14. If I had line number 16 also to be included, I would write 2-14 space 16, okay. So, that would put everything into the file name that is provided as the second argument to %save, okay. %save is a magic command in IPython with which I was able to save the content into the file. So, 2 to 14 was saved into the file. Now, my question was the first line, right. You can see that the following commands were written to the grade to GPA. It starts from here to here, okay, and I made some movement up and down, etc. I moved around the grade point to here, I moved around certain lines here and there. But you can see that this particular statement hash space coding colon space UTF-8 was not there in this particular thing. I have not written it. So, which means that this was added automatically when I called the %save. And what is this is the question. And why did we look at that? Because over here there is a particular question regarding the source file encoding. Now, let us see what is this coding UTF-8. So, I am just searching on the internet, where does this coding UTF-8 come from? What does that mean? Okay. So, what is UTF-8 encoding? So, this is a guide for non-programmers, which means that we should also be able to understand it, because we are programmers and we can read some documents which are made for non-programmers as well. Okay. So, here you can see that let me do one thing, translate.google.com, and I am just going to type English. Okay. Okay. So, I have written a statement, I am doing fine, how are you, in English, and it has actually translated it into Malayalam, okay, and it has translated, I am sure you may not be able to read it, okay. I can translate it to probably Hindi also, right? Yeah, Hindi is also there. Okay, so मैं अच्छा कर रहा हूँ, आप कैसे है, that was what it translated to Hindi, and in Malayalam it was written as എനിക്ക് സുഖമാണ് സുഖമാണോ. Okay, so how do you represent these characters on the computer screen is the question. What is the question? I'll type the question down. SM. We have seen the different, we have seen that we can write and read using different spoken languages on a computer, right? Example can be Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, okay, Sanskrit, any language that you can say. Okay, how are the letters represented? So how many of you remember ASCII?
Yes, sir.
Who all remembers that? Who said yes?
Sir, Bhadraksh.
Bhadraksh. Okay, what about others? Prajwal, do you remember what is ASCII?
Sir, exactly I don't remember what.
That was one of
But
the
I-
major topics in CS101. We started from there. Okay, we started learning about representing the things on a computer from the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, and I am very sad that none of you guys remember that. It is, I mean, very few people. See, these things I am telling you, that I am teaching you, are the building blocks for programming. If you do not remember these things, forget programming completely. Okay, now ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Now we know that the number 97 represents capital A, okay, and similar way I think 65 represents small letter a or so, right? So we have seen that, I mean to say ASCII code table. Okay, so you can, if you look at the ASCII table, you can see that let's say capital A is 65, okay, and it is small a which is 97, which means that this is how you are going to represent something in the computer's memory, which means that a character is represented by some binary digits in the computer's memory. And in Python also the same thing happens, because these are what builds the computer. Now we were discussing about something called source file encoding, and the question was, we have seen the languages can be written, multiple languages can be written in a computer. So I can write Hindi, I can write Malayalam, I can write Tamil, I can read those things as well. But Hindi, if I want to write, I have to represent a, e, u, ir, a, I, o, au, and all those alphabets, the letters that you have learned in Hindi, Malayalam and Tamil. So how do you represent that? Meaning that it has to be first drawn as a visual representation on the computer screen for your eyes to see it. Other than that, the next thing that we have to do is, we have to encode that particular representation as a binary representation on a computer. Okay, so ASCII was the first thing that we started with, which was the American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Okay, now that is not sufficient, because we know that sorry, we know that we will be able to represent only few characters with ASCII. So, which means that if you want to represent more characters, how do you represent that? How can you do that? So, that is the question that we have. So, let us say code in the core Python distribution should always use UTF-8, okay? That is an encoding standard and should have an encoding declaration, okay? So, code in the core Python distribution should always use the UTF-8 and should have an encoding declaration. In standard library, non-UTF-8 encodings should be used only for test purposes. Use non-ASCII characters, see this? Use non-ASCII characters sparingly, preferably only to denote places and human names. If using non-ASCII characters as data, avoid noisy Unicode characters like these and byte order marks. So, if I look for what is Unicode characters, okay, and look at the list of the Unicode characters, it is going to give me a list of a number of Unicode characters. Okay, so null character, start of heading, start of text, okay, then multiple languages, I mean multiple Unicode symbols are there, okay. So, digit 0, okay. So, here the code is U plus 0000 and it goes on like this, and let us say in 48, right, that was over here, you have U plus 0030 and so on. So, essentially what you need to understand is that ASCII was probably one of the smallest encoding examples that we have learned in our CS101 programming course. And when we come further to the CS151 course, we can see that if we want to represent more characters that I am highlighting right now with my mouse pointer right now, okay, if you want to use these characters, what and with what encoding do we have it in our computer is the question. Like the copyright character, okay, this is another character, this is another character. So, these are all some special characters, right, that you can have, and if you want to have you can have Latin characters as well, right. You have Latin capital A, letter A with a ring above, with a tilde above, with a circumflex above, with an acute, okay. So, which means that essentially there are so many characters out there that you have to represent if you want to represent multiple languages on a computer, if you want to read multiple languages on a computer, if you want to read multiple languages on your phone, if you want to use your smartphone, go around, take pictures, read the characters separately. How is it done? It is done using the characters that are encoded. And what are the different encodings possible? There are multiple encodings possible. One of it is the UTF-8, which is actually I think the Unicode characters only, okay. It is the Unicode characters, and then there are Chinese encodings, European encodings, okay, different other encodings as well, until we came across the standard for the Unicode, okay. So, that is what we mean by character encoding. So, it says that the source file encoding in a Python programming language, when you work with Python programming language, you should be ideally using UTF-8 to write your code. If you are going to use any other encoded characters, okay, it should only be the non-ASCII characters, okay, but it should be the Unicode characters. It has to be the Unicode characters, but it is better to avoid these characters, okay. So, all identifiers in Python standard library must use ASCII only identifiers and should use English words wherever feasible. In many cases, abbreviations and technical terms are used which aren't English. Okay. So, open source projects with global audience are encouraged to adopt a similar policy. So, what does this particular line say? Open source projects with a global audience are encouraged to adopt similar policy. So, I told you about a person called Linus Torvalds yesterday, right? Did I not tell you? Do you guys remember?
Sir, you mentioned it about in
Yes.
Yes, I did mention about Linus Torvalds yesterday. And Linus Torvalds is a person who wrote the Git software as well as the Linux kernel. Now, I'll take you to the GitHub and let's search for the Linux source code. Okay, so you can see that the Linux kernel is available here in torvalds/linux, and you can see that there are like more than 1,00,000 commits, right? Not lakh, but more than 1,000,000 commits, correct? Meaning that more than 1,000,000 times the code base was changed. Maybe the code was added, maybe some code was deleted, maybe some code was changed. Okay, all of those things has happened so many times, and you can see that there are about, how many people are shown here? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 11 people are shown here, and it says plus 12,369 contributors. And you can see that the different programming languages used in this particular code itself, in this particular code base, are C programming language, shell programming language, Python programming language, assembly programming language, makefiles, and Perl programming language. Okay, which means that we go back and read this statement again. The statement that I have highlighted, I am highlighting again. Open source projects with global audience are encouraged to adopt a similar policy. So, why do we need to use that? We need to use that for a reason. For example, because people are collaborating, okay, without having standards regarding the naming or variable names, etc. It would be difficult for even two people to collaborate. Forget 12,500 people collaborating, right? So, essentially what it means is that if you want to actually collaborate between two people, you need to have some set standards. If you want to actually put two computers, one here in India and one in France, and you want to send data across these two computers, how do you do that? There will be some certain standards or certain communication protocols that are in place, and based on those communication protocols, you will actually send across the data and you will be able to communicate. And same way, you have standards regarding the source file encoding as well, and the Python program should ideally always use the UTF-8 encoding. Okay. Then next is about the imports. How should you be importing the statements? See, you can actually, if you want to import two modules, say OS and sys, you can always import it the way that I am highlighting right now, which is import sys comma OS. It is correct, it will work, but as per the PEP8 standards, you should not do that. As per the PEP8 standards, you should do it as import OS and in the next line import sys. Okay. If you want to actually import multiple functions or variables from the module, you can use the comma separation from subprocess import popen comma pipe. that is always allowed. Okay. So, this way you can see that there are a number of things that are mentioned here in this PEPATE standard, and I want each and every one of you to go through it. Please do not take this Python CS151 as a joke. If you are going to take it as a joke, then you will be having a tough time. So, please go through all these things and make sure that you write your code as per the proper standards, and do not submit code which is not as per the standard. Okay. Now, coming back to the exercise that we were doing, we wanted to check the results for the for the PEPATE, and we made some changes, and it says that even after we have made the changes, it says that missing white space after comma, that is also very important, and I can see that there is a white space missing over here. So, I add a white space here. I can see that there is a white space missing here, over here, then again over here it is there, okay. Over here also it is there, and over here also it is not there. So, 4 places, and we are going to check the code again. You can see that as per the PEPATE standards, everything as of our code is fine, but I do not think this grade point is right, because grade point is supposed to be 2 different words, and if you have 2 different words for a particular variable name, you should use, I'll tell you 2 things, read about it, it's an exercise for you, okay, camel case or snake case naming convention. Okay. So, we will use the camel case at certain locations, and we will use the snake case at certain locations, and here I suggest that it should be actually like this grade underscore point as a snake case thing. Okay. But even if it is not done, this particular PEPATE checker can think that it is just one single word, because it is not going to check it across a dictionary or anything. Okay. Now, next one is, it is saying something very interesting. In the line number 11, in column 1, it says blank line contains white space. Can we check for that? So, in a blank line, in line number 7, I am at the start of the line number 7, and I am pressing the key shift and right. Okay. The entire line was selected because it is a blank line. In line number 11, I have come to the start of the line, and I am pressing shift and right arrow. You can see that has selected something else, that has selected something that our eyes could not see. Okay. So, it contained some additional white spaces which a blank line ideally should not have, and I have deleted it, and I am doing the check again, and you can see that alright, your code, check for your code for PEPATE requirements, the code definitely follows the PEPATE requirements. Now, apart from that, I wanted to show you one more thing. Okay. So, for example, I am taking 2 numbers, say for example the credits, right. Over here we have the credits and the position. Okay. So, SBCDAD, right, and 433233 was another thing. So, my problem is, I want to actually 4332. Oh wait, I can look at credits here, right? Yeah, credits is a list which has 433233, and then after that, what do I have? I must also have I must also be having a variable called line. Okay, and line dot split with comma from the second onwards will give me AB, 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 correct? And you can see that that will be the last thing that we have in the line, because after the code executed, this will be what there in the memory. So we have AB, AB, AB. Now my question is, instead of just a second, yeah. Okay, so I have length of this line dot split, okay, or I would say grades, okay. Grades is, this is the grades. So grades is AB, 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 and the credits is 433, 233. Okay, so you can see that what we use over here is this thing. Say we can do it this way. Okay, I can say grades is equal to, and we are doing grades, correct, right? So I can run the code once again and it will still work, and now I have grades here and I also have credits here. But what am I doing here? Position comma grade in enumerate grades. I have another function called SIP. So I wanted to show you what SIP can do. So what I'm going to do is SIP credits comma grades. Okay. So for E in SIP credits and grades, print E. Okay. And what have you obtained now? So this is another representation. Okay. So over here we have used enumerate, correct? Instead of that, I can do, say, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this. Okay, I'm going to comment this, comment these two lines. Before that I need to copy that, and then I need to comment these two lines. Okay, save it, and so what I want is SIP. Okay, SIP credits comma grades. Okay, and then I want credit comma grade, and then what I will have is credit into grade point of grade. This is another way I can change it. Okay, I am saving the code. Let me see whether it is going to run, and it works, correct? It works and it produces a exact same result. So I wanted to show you the use of SIP with this SIP and the use of PEP8. So that is what we have covered in today's class. So we have used SIP and PEP8, and I also wanted to show you, I can write this particular part using NumPy, where Bhadraksh had asked me this question, right, Bhadraksh, where you asked me, it all does the single place computation, right, as in all of it is done parallelly. I can do it with NumPy also over here. Okay, can be explored. Let's do that later, and I want you guys to also look through it, okay, and get a better idea. So over here, this I said it should be grade underscore point ideally, okay, and other than that there should be a space here, 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 should be a space here, and over here, and in line number 11 it has to be empty. Okay, and let's just try to see whether this particular code PEP8 is going to be fine or not. Check again. Oh, there are some problems in the line number 2 also. Line number 2 is over here, which is this space, and this space. So save, and again select the entire code. Okay, select the lines. Okay, and check again. You can see that there are again very few errors, but these errors, right, that are, one is in line number 3, line too long, 80 characters, okay, greater than, so this, in this one, right, more, there are more than 80 characters. So you can see that there is a fine line, vertical line on the right side, which is saying that that's the line limit, okay. And then we added some comments. So you know, there are certain things regarding that as well. So I want you to go through this pepeitonline.com/check result and check your code also every time you submit it to me, okay. So students, whatever you have learned so far, see, you have learned ABCD in LKG. You remember ABCD even now. It is not something that you have to forget. It's something that you have to remember always. Same way, ASCII is something that you learnt in your LKG of BTech. That's the first year of your BTech. Remember that. Okay. So that's it, guys. I'll just take the attendance quickly. 151 attendance. Regular session. Students, please tell me your name when you see your name on the screen.
I and Duresh are present, sir.
Sure. Aditya, I guess. Aprit, I guess.
After present, sir.
Yeah. Others, please unmute and speak out.
Akash Yadav, sir.
Thank you, Akash.
Bhupesh Shota, sir.
Bhupesh.
Sir, 13 present, sir.
13.
Sir, roll number 14, Dheeraj present, sir.
Sir, 10 present, sir.
10. Sure.
Sir, 15 present, sir.
In between, somebody spoke.
Rituraj 12.
Rituraj 12. Thank you. Okay, Rituraj. Thank you, Rituraj. Yeah.
Sir, Bhadrakshi is also present.
Bhadraksh. Yeah, sure. Bhadraksh. Thank you.
18 also present.
18.
17 present. So.
18.
19, sir.
19.
That is hello.
Yeah.
Sir, 22.
22. 20.
Sir, 27.
27.
Sir, 26.
Abhishek was present,
21.
sir. He left off the meet.
Abhishek Kumar Mohanty.
Yes, sir. Due to power cut, he left the meet.
Okay. So sure. 27.
21.
29, sir.
21.
Yes.
Yeah. Then 29. Then 28. Yeah.
30 present, sir.
30. Sure. 31. 32, 33, 34, 35.
34.
34.
Sir, 35 is also.
36. Sir, 36 also.
Yeah. So,
Sir, 37 present.
37.
7 was also present, sir.
7. Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you the absentees roll numbers: 11, 16, 11, 16, 23, 24, 25, 31, 32, 33. That's it. Is that correct, students?
Yes, sir.
So Shubham Joshi, Rishik Nair, let me see. Shubham Joshi, Rishik Nair, they both are present in the meeting. Are they there? Shubham and Rishik, are you present before the computer screen? Then who else is there? Yelagonda Barwami, Yemma Venkatareddy. What about Sheikh Bashir Ahmad? Okay, I think that's Krishna Sarup. Okay, I think that's fair. And Amulya, no, Anshika, right? Anshika was present in the day before yesterday class, and I will mark you present. I think that is on 4th, right? You are already marked present. I think that was communicated to me by Akash. Okay, so that's it, guys. So PEP8 is today's topic. PEP8 and the different ways in which you can write the code. So, this we saw the zip function where you can actually zip two lists together. Okay. So, we have seen how that is done. So, that is it guys, let us meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
If you have any questions, please do ask me that now. Don't keep it in your mind, you may forget. Okay. All right guys, bye.